This time I'm going to show you how to retrofit a pair of LED fog lights into the 2015 Chrysler 200C. Those are H11 lights. You do have to use load resistors and CANBUS decoders for these. So I'll show you those. I'll show you where to get those from. This time we're doing this video because a company called Auxito reached out to me. They wanted me to feature a set of their LED lights. So you can get these from Auxito.com, AUXITO. They provided these. I had to buy the CANBUS decoders separately. I'll see if I can figure out where I bought those from and give you guys a link to those. And then also I had to buy the load resistors separately. Auxito didn't have those or didn't provide those. But I know that LED lights are a major hassle on these cars, so I'm trying to put a couple videos together for you guys to make it a little bit easier for you. So let me show you what you're going to need. You're going to need a set of H11 LED bulbs. You're going to need a set of decoders. These ones are from CANBUS. I can try and find a link for that for you. And then because you need to use these load resistors, and these load resistors get very warm, you can't have them touch plastic or any other wire or anything. Got to stay touching metal on this surface so they can dissipate all the heat they're going to create. These create about the same amount of heat as a light bulb does, or pretty close, a regular light bulb. So because you need those, we're going to try and use these large hose clamps. I'll show you what these are for later. But these are a 63 millimeter to 115 millimeter range clamp. So two of those, one for each side. And now I'll show you what you got to do getting into the car. Another step you're going to want to take before you get started is you're going to extend the wires from your load resistor to about 12 inches. Okay, you're going to need that extra wire length. So you want to pull down the whole underskirt. There's the whole plastic splash panel underneath there usually. I've already pulled that off. I've also pulled off the this panel here that's underneath the radiator and goes underneath the fog light area. And I'll show you what that gives me. I can access the back of the fog light. Okay, so I've already unplugged this. This is your fog light wire. And I've already taken carefully with a razor knife and cut back some of the split loom and exposed these wires. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to have to solder like we did on the other project. Attach one wire from the resistor to this one's white and purple on this side, and the other wire is going to connect it to the black. That's going to trick the computer into thinking there's actually a regular light bulb hooked into this, even though there's not, because it's not going to know the difference from this LED bulb. So what's the nearest metal piece? This aluminum bumper support. So there's actually a little bit of this down here, different places you could mount this resistor. But here's what my plan is going to be. I'm going to tuck it on top of this aluminum support here. Okay, way up above, so it's kind of out of the way. Hopefully it won't get too wet or too exposed to any elements. And then that large hose clamp is going to go all the way around this whole beam, and it's going to squeeze that resistor on the top of that and hold it there. And so it's going to use, the resistor is going to use that bumper support as a means of dissipating the extra heat. And there's really nothing else up there in the way, which is nice. So that's going to be a good thing. So I'm going to just do a quick brief on soldering those wires and wrapping them with some black tape to seal them up again. Maybe a little piece of split loom. Then I'll show you how we're going to wrap that hose clamp around there and clamp that sucker down. It's a little bit of an unusual solution, but it should be just fine for this purpose. One of the techniques that's important here in this project is getting a wire stripped, but only partially, so that so you can solder wire into it. You can tap into it and solder it. Okay, so I'll show you an example. So here's a straight piece of wire. This is more difficult to show you under this car just because of the way things are, the space in there. So we got the wire, got some wire strippers. We're going to find the right size in the wire stripper mouth there. We're going to just pierce the insulation a little bit, twist the wire a little bit, pierce it again. Then we're going to try and stretch a little bit of that insulation away from that cut, just a little bit, okay? Then we're going to go up maybe about an inch up the wire, okay? Do the same thing again. Just pierce it around and try and stretch it a little bit. So now what you see we got is 2 marks there where we've pierced the insulation. Okay, so that's how you start. Now, we're gonna take a razor knife and carefully slice it this way. So we got that section there. We're just gonna do a nice, careful, straight cut across those 2 spots that we started to strip that wire. Make sure your cut's all the way through. Now we can peel off that insulation only where we need it peeled off, okay? So now we got some wire exposed here. Sometimes you get a couple of loose strands because maybe you pierce the side a little bit too much, but just twist those again and tuck them, okay? So now that's what that wire looks like off the fog light plug that I just disconnected. So now we'll come in with the new wire. In this case, we're going to bring in the wire from the ballast resistor, okay? So we're going to strip the end of that wire, okay? And this, you don't need to have to strip quite this much off, but you're going to come alongside the wire that we just did this with underneath. This is just assuming what we're doing underneath the car. I'm going to wrap this around it, maybe 2-3 times, something like that. Okay? And that is what you can then solder, okay? And soldering, you're basically just going to touch the soldering iron to it, heat up that wire a little bit, and then you're going to go ahead and add your solder to it. It's going to melt right in, just like it's supposed to. And then, in this case, after you've done soldering this, and after it cools down a little bit, you can wrap this entire thing with black tape, and then maybe wrap it with a second layer of black tape, just to protect it and seal it up better. You can do that on both of those wires. So that's the technique that's tough for me to show you under the car, but that's basically how it works. Okay. So with those leads soldered in, like I described, I got one on each side of the wires on that fog light plug. So now I've got the load resistor tucked up here, okay? So what we're going to do now, we're going to take this giant hose clamp here. Going to release it completely like that. Okay, so now I'll tuck the resistor in here under the band of that clamp, so that way the wire comes out on each side of the clamp, okay? So that's kind of a look at what we're going to do. So now it's a matter of just holding that resistor up there on the top, probably in the middle, and then tightening this clamp down. And then we'll have that mounted safely. Then we can return to our wiring issue, right? And we'll do that next. Okay, now we can take the old fog light out. That's just a slight turn to the left. Comes right out for you. Now we can take the new fog light here. Start a little bit to the right. And then give it a turn like so. And now it's just a matter of plugging this guy in to the harness. There we go. So I'll probably try and tuck this up a little bit higher so it's not just dangling under its own weight. Try and tuck that up there. Maybe even find a place to attach a zip tie here. It's not a lot of stuff there, but either way, it should be fine in that position. So now all we got to do is just check and make sure there's no error codes, and we'll be good to go. And then you just got to repeat the process for the other side.